The Great Recession is said to have started by the National Bureau of Economic Research, which is the official agency that times these things, gives them their dates, to have begun in December of 2007. That already makes it one of the longest downturns since the Second World War, just using their counting system. In December of 2007, the official unemployment rate of the United States, as released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the government agency charged with doing that, counted 7 million Americans looking for work and unable to find it. December 2007. Here we are in October 2009, and the official unemployment released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics is now 15 million Americans. Okay? So in a period of less than 2 years, we have more than doubled the number of people, and they continue to go up across this entire time. That is not a recovery. That is to call that a recovery requires things that even Madison Avenue advertisers would find difficult to work with. But if the media want to, and if the politicians need it, they can try to dress this thing up. Next thing. The current rate of foreclosure filings. That's important to keep in mind. A foreclosure, for all of you, I assume you all know what it is. Basically, it means you've taken out a mortgage on a property and you can't make the monthly payments. And when you can't do that, the lender has the legal right to come and seize the property, chuck you out, sell the property, take whatever money they can get from selling the property to pay themselves the loan you're no longer able to pay, and if there's anything left over, you can have that. Of course, what this means is that the foreclosing entity has no incentive to get the best price. Their only incentive is to get as much as they need to repay what you owe. And so they dump the property, basically. They sell it for the minimum that they can, which is partly why we see the plunging price of houses as banks who foreclose dump the properties that they don't want to hold anyway. In any case, a foreclosure is just a name for it, the legal name for the process that a lender goes through to throw you out of the house. The sheriff comes, gives you a piece of paper, you don't do the right thing, namely come up with the money, which you probably can't because you don't have it, and the sheriff returns a few days later, usually with 2 or 3 other large persons, to escort you out of the house or to throw you out and your furniture too. And that is happening all over the United States. The current rate of the filing processes that are begun that lead to the eventual foreclosure are now running at 350,000 per month, new ones. And that's the highest since December of 2007. So by the standard of unemployment and by the standard of housing foreclosures, there is no recovery. There's nothing remotely like a recovery. Whatever the opposite of recovery is, that's what we got. But we're not done. We're not done. There are other measures. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has a whole set of unemployment measures. And they get the initials U, capital letter U for unemployment, -1, -2, -3, because they're different ways of counting. The one I want to mention to you is called U6, U-number 6, and here's what it counts. The number of adults looking for work and unable to find it. That's the 7 to 15 million I referred to a couple minutes ago. But to that they add what are called officially, these are their names, discouraged workers. Those are the people who have been looking for a certain period of time and are no longer looking. They've basically given up. That's why they're called discouraged. And the third group added to the U6 are the people who have a part-time job but not out of choice. They want a full-time job, but they have a part-time job. So the U6 adds those 3 together. If you add those 3 together today, right now, the unemployment U6 rate is 17% of the United States. That means 1 in 6 workers, actually a little bit more than 1 in 6 workers, is either unemployed, discouraged, or involuntarily working part-time. If it's 1 in 6, that means every single American family either has a mother, a child, a cousin, a nephew who's in that situation. And one of the first things that happens to an American family, if one member is in that situation, is that sooner or later that one member turns to other members of the family and the network for help, so that the burden is immediately spread. So the number of people that are not touched by this downturn, is small. And the number of people who are is the vast majority of the American people, which explains in part the level of anger to which I will come back later that is percolating through our society and that promises to get much worse. So by all those measures, and one more, there's no recovery. There is one measure that needs to be kept in mind because there's a delay between the unemployment and the foreclosure and what I'm about to talk about. The thing I want to stress for you is that when economies go down like this, especially when they go down so far and they last down so long, is that the mass of people become more and more dependent on government services to help them out in these distressed situations, whether that be unemployment compensation, whether that be problems for homeless people. And you do understand, right, that we're in a society now which is throwing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people out of their homes. So that in many communities, including New Haven, it is not difficult to imagine the following scenario as becoming part of our landscape. On the one hand, people who have no home. On the other hand, something these homeless people can now gaze upon, namely empty homes. So we are a society that can't solve the problem of a homelessness side by side with lots of unoccupied homes. There are even, if this lunacy isn't bad enough, there are even communities, and I think of one in particular, Cleveland, Ohio, a horribly distressed city, on a scale almost of Detroit. You have to say almost because nothing is quite like Detroit, but almost Cleveland. Cleveland is unique because it has so many abandoned houses that the people who were neighbors of the houses being abandoned were getting freaked out because drug folks and teenagers looking for a place to do what teenagers need to do were doing it in those houses next door, and that depressed the value of the people who were paying their mortgage, freaking them out, and those people demanded something. And the clever city fathers of Cleveland discovered a law on the books in the United States, it's been on the law for a while, that allowed Cleveland to apply for federal money, which it got, to help solve this problem, get ready now, by tearing down the abandoned houses, many of which had been built 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a society that not only separates people from their homes so that the people can look at the empty homes, but to solve the bizarre structure of our economy, it then uses your tax money to pay the costs of destroying the houses it has thrown people out of. At this point, I would need the American anthem to be played to give you the drama of this whole thing. Okay. The delayed effect, though, is as people need more government services, because they're unemployed, because so many businesses are declaring bankruptcy, there's less and less tax money being paid because cities and towns rely on business activity, employed people, income, and so on to raise their money. But it takes a while. For example, as property values go down, it takes a while for the city assessor in Hamden, New Haven, East Haven, or anywhere else to adjust the properties down. But as the properties get adjusted down, then the mill rate is either going to have to go up on the rest of you, or the city is going to suffer a reduction in income, which will be unfortunate because it's already suffering reductions of money from the state, which helps cities. And the federal government, as you all know, is in hock up to its nose.